So we're going to be doing similar figures. We need to mark the corresponding sides of the two figures. So with math, we don't necessarily always have a highlighter. So what I do is I say squigglies and dashes. So I'm going to put squigglies on 9, and we're going to give squigglies to figure 2, the side that corresponds with it. And H corresponds with the 9, so I'm going to give that squigglies. Now over here, I'm going to give dashes to the 15 so I can tell the difference between squigglies and dashes. And 15 corresponds with the 12. So I'm going to give that dashes as well. Now, I call this the tic-tac-toe method. This is basically setting up a proportion, and it makes it a little bit more organized for me. So I'm going to be going from the big figure, the big rectangle, to the small rectangle, and I'm going to be putting squigglies on top of dashes. So when I look at the big rectangle, what do the squigglies represent? And if I look over here, that's represented by 9, so I'm going to put a 9 right here. Now looking at the big figure, the dashes are represented by 15, so I'm going to put 15 on the bottom. Over here now, looking at the small figure, the squigglies is represented by H, and the dashes are represented by 12. So now from here, what we're going to do is just what we've always done. I'm going to multiply the 9 times the 12 and divide it by 15. So 12 times 9 gives me 108. So I'm going to do 108 divided by 15. 15 goes into here 7 times, which would be 105. I'm going to subtract the 105, and I get a remainder of 3. So from here, I need to do snakebite and bring down a 0. And 15 goes into 30 2 times. So in this problem, H is equivalent to 7.2 centimeters. Okay, now when we look at this, we had 9 over 15 and H over 12, so we multiplied the 9 and the 12. If I look here, I multiply the 9 and the 12, and I divide it by 15. So this one would technically also give me the answer for H. If I look here, I did not multiply the 15 times the 12 or divide by 9, so this one does not show. This one is a little bit different than ours, so it doesn't look the exact same as ours. And if it is different, will it give us the same answer? And yes, because we're still multiplying 9 times 12 and we're dividing by 15, so it will give us the same answer. So this next one, we're still going to do the exact same thing. We're going to do squigglies and dashes just with a triangle. So if I give 9 squigglies, I'm also going to give 6 squigglies. And if I give 24 dashes, the side that corresponds with the 24 is H. So I have it all set up. I'm going to set it up over here. I'm going to go from big triangle to small triangle with squigglies over dashes. And when I look at this, the big one, the squigglies are represented by 9. The big one, the dashes are represented by 24. Looking here, the small one, the squigglies are worth 6, and the dashes are worth H. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross multiply 24 times 6 and divide my answer by 9. So 24 times 6 will give me 144. And I'm going to do 144 divided by 9. 9 goes into 14 one time with a remainder of 5. I'm going to bring down the 4. 9 goes into 54 6 times. So in this figure, H is equal to 16 centimeters. So my answer would be 16 centimeters. Now, we had 9 over 24 and 6 over H, so we're multiplying these two. When I look over here, this looks exactly like mine. And it will give us the answer for H. So this one works. It will give us the answer for H. But if I look over here, I'm also multiplying 24 by 6, and I'm also dividing by 9. Even though it's set up differently, it will still give us the exact same answer. So if I'm looking at this one, does it look the exact same as mine? No. If it's different, does it give the same answer to the proportion? And that would be yes. It would still give us the answer of 16. Okay, so this next one, we need to mark the corresponding sides. Now this is different than the other two in the fact that this shape is upside down. Okay, so if we need, you can turn your head. You can say, okay, well, 7 is the bottom. It's like the fat side. So if 7 is the long side and X is the long side, that means that these sides are corresponding. Now the short side on top or on the bottom would be corresponding with the short side on the top over here. And if you wanted to redraw this one over here, we could, and we would say, well, that means that 6 is on the bottom and x is on the top, and you would see that they correspond with each other. So this one, if you don't ever want to put the big and small, you can always just do squigglies and dashes. I just do it that way because sometimes it makes it a little bit more organized for me. So I'm going to show y'all without. So I'm going to have 7 over 5 and x over 6. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross multiply the 7 times the 6, which is 42, and I'm going to divide by 5. So I'm going to do 42 divided by 5. 5 goes into here 8 times. I'm going to subtract the 40, and I'm going to get a 2. Snake bite. And 5 goes into 20 4 times. So in this problem, x is equivalent to 8.4 centimeters. That is the missing side. All right, so we multiplied the 7 and the 6 and we divided by 5. So if I look, 7 times 6 divided by 5, that's exactly what we did. So that will give us the answer for x. And this one we're doing 5 times 6 divided by 7, which will not give us the answer. So this one does not work. Does it look the exact same as ours? Yes. So we don't need to answer that last question. Finally, the last problem. We're going to do the exact same thing. Now, if you want to redraw this last one, you can redraw it so that's long ways, where we have the x on the top, or the x on the bottom, and the 3.2 on the side. So this way, if you need to redraw it, will help you show what sides correspond with each other. So if I give the 7.5 squigglies, when I look over here, the x corresponds with that, or the x right here. Now, when I go on to the next one, if I give dashes to 4, that means I would give 3.2 dashes, which would also be up here. So I'm going to set it up. I'm going to go from my big one to my small one with squigglies over dashes. And if you don't want to do that, if you want to set up a proportion, by all means set up a proportion, or if you can find scale factor. So looking at the big one, the squigglies are represented by 7.5 and the dashes represent by 4. Looking at the small one, the squigglies is represented by x and the dashes are represented by 3.2. So from here I'm going to cross multiply these two and divide my answer by 4. So off to the side I'm going to do 7.5 times 3.2. 2 times 5 is 10, that's 15. 0 for place value, that's 15, that's 21, that's 22. When I add it all up, I get 2,400, but I need to move my decimal over 2 times, so I get 24. Now with that 24, I have to divide it by 4, and 4 goes into 24 6 times. So x is equal to 6 inches in this problem. We're almost done. So we multiplied the 7.5 and the 3.2 and we divided by 4. Now if I look at this one, I'm multiplying by 7.5 and 3.2 and dividing by 4. This will give us our answer. And this one, we're not necessarily multiplying the correct ones or dividing. So this one will not work. Is it exactly the same as ours? This one? It's not the exact same, but it will give us the same answer because we're still multiplying and dividing by the same amount.